Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio, where top performers share their secrets to help you achieve your personal and your professional goals. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and together with my amazing guests, we bring you inspiring and actionable insights to take your life and your business to the next level. Ranked in the top 2% globally, this podcast is a must listen, and it's because of my guests. So whether you're tuning in for entrepreneurial tips, career advice, or personal development strategies, get ready to turn inspiration into action, challenges into triumphs, and lean dreams into reality. And I always tell anybody who's listening, take notes, lots of notes. So today we are exploring the realities of the entrepreneurial journey with Feras Alhlou, the founder of Up With Feras, and a seasoned entrepreneur with a knack for building and selling companies. With over 20 years of experience, Feras co-founded e-CENS, C-E-N-S, a company specializing in digital transformation services. And his expertise is evident in his many successful ventures, and I'll get him to share those with you. So aside from his personal accomplishments, Feras is a co-author of Google Analytics Breakthrough, a book that is on my desk right now. He holds a master's in engineering management, and he's dedicated to mentoring founders, supporting nonprofits like the American Red Cross, and advocating for youth, I can't talk today, and advocating for youth mentorship and income equality. Feras, good morning. Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. It's good to have you here.
Good morning, Denise. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the kind introduction.
I stumbled a bit through it, but I need to tell our audience, you were supposed to be here yesterday. I live in the Deep South. We had horrible weather, so bless you. You came back on a Saturday. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend your Saturday morning with us.
No, sure. It's really excited about this conversation. I've listened to some of your podcasts and some of your conversations. So let's jump right in. Really excited about it.
Let's do it. So tell us a bit about you and how you show up in the world. You're a pretty interesting fella.
Well, let me tell you, I show up early every day with a lot of gratitude, but ready to work hard and play hard. And life and business, they throw a lot of curveballs at us, and you just have to be ready to roll with the punches. That's how I view every day. You have a plan, you have a list of priorities, but who knows what will happen, and you just have to be ready to deal with the things that come your way. But yeah, that's really. I'm big on working hard. I'm big on having fun as well. Been married for 36 years with 3 children, now adults. So going through my maybe second, third mountain now with this new venture to help entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes I made.
And I think so many people who do what you're doing is saying, listen, I've done some great things in the world. I've, created some wonderful products, processes, whatever it is that I've done. And now it's my turn to share. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah. Was it Ralph Waldo Emerson said, he said, I'm paraphrasing, life is not about just being happy, but it's about being honorable, being compassionate, and also being helpful. And that's and other powerful quotes. They inspire me to work hard, and of course, with working hard, success is not guaranteed, but you're more likely to get places and hopefully have some resources, and then sharing those resources with others, whether it's a financial contribution you can make to a nonprofit, a cause you believe in, or maybe just helping someone else with something that you have. Maybe you're really good in communication, so you teach youth how to communicate better. Or maybe you're just good in math. Maybe you can help. You go to a local school where they don't have, they need support in math, or maybe it just being out there, sharing your experience with the world. So I think working hard, making it big. I'm all I'm all in that. But at the same time, I think as people, as a society, sharing more with what from what we have, with others, I think it's rewarding, I think, to the one giving more than the one receiving in so many different ways too.
It can be because, we'll do or say something, and I've had this happen, and I've had other guests say, I just heard or said something or read something and thought, man, that was great. And then I read it again and realized I wrote it. So sometimes you show up in the darndest places and people go, that was very helpful. It may be 5 years down the road, but all of a sudden there you are when they needed you.
Yeah, I remember I forgot what I was in a mall going on an elevator, and someone, just totally random, Denise. I just like, I don't know, maybe it happens once in a lifetime. And this lady, young lady who had a business, started a business a few years ago, and she had reached out to me, and I spoke with her for maybe 30 minutes, and she was really struggling. She wasn't sure if she should commit to this business and if she was going to make it or not. And her husband was very supportive, but they were not sure about where she was putting her time. And it was tough. It was tough to get leads. It was tough to close deals. And just shared with her some examples of what worked for me. And we just, again, we ran into each other, and she said, "Oh my goodness, I'm now over $100,000 in revenue, and business is going well, and I want to grow, and I want to hire. And thank you so much for that tip you gave me." Like, oh my God, I was overwhelmed. I don't know, almost got emotional. So it's those sort of experiences that make me want to do what I'm doing now, is to share what I've learned, from my own mistakes, and then from just speaking with others, other founders, other folks who have been successful, and sharing that knowledge and that experience with others.
Well, one thing about entrepreneurs, and I've said this 100 times if I've said it at all, entrepreneurs are typically very generous people. We want to see you succeed. We'll help you if we can.
Yeah, 100%. I I think, you go on YouTube, online, and you hear self-made this and self-made that. I mean, come on, no one is self-made. We all had people support us in so many different ways. Even if we had a very tough beginning, even if we had horrible phases in our lives, whatever, at home or elsewhere, but other people, so many other people help us along the way. And I think those of us who end up making it, whatever making it is for them, uh, I think we owe it to give back and help. I think that's entrepreneurs. I think they feel it firsthand, because it's a struggle to start a business, to grow a business, to scale to 7 figures or 8 figures. It's not something you can do, working 30 hours a week. So I think with the struggle, with the difficulty, with the challenges, they all that builds your character. And I think along the way, you realize just how many people help you in so many different ways. I think you see people giving back.
Absolutely. And I kind of get a chuckle out of this. I'll see people online saying, "Well, I started my business because I wanted to, travel. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. I didn't realize it was 160 hours a day." It is. You're going to work you're going to work in your sleep. I don't know about you, but I'm a lucid dreamer, and I will build things in my sleep because my little squirrel brain doesn't ever shut down. But speaking of the girl lady that you ran into, and that's a terrific story. One of the questions I have written down is, when faced with adversity, should a struggling entrepreneur consider quitting, pivoting, or doubling down on their efforts?
Actually, I have a video on that. You quit, you
Oh,
double down, or you pivot. It's hard. So I'll give you an example. When we started our first business, so we moved to Silicon Valley from Florida in 1998. I got into the startup scene. For those of us old enough, there was the bubble, that burst back in 2000. Survived that, but then in 2003, I was laid off. I was a VP in a cutting edge high tech company, and we raised a lot of money at the time. I was part of the management team, and then basically the product wasn't ready to go to market, no revenue, and then layoffs ensued, and I was impacted by one of the last layoffs, and then the company folded a few months later. So we started a business, and I wasn't actually entrepreneurship wasn't something on my radar with a young family. I was looking for a job. I think for 6 7 weeks, I didn't even, Denise, I was sending resumes left and right, and I had a good network of friends and industry folks. No one single interview. So a friend of mine and I started our very first business, and it was really hard. So it took us. I didn't know. I didn't have any sales background. I didn't know what marketing was. So it was a struggle, and then those thoughts come to you: is this gonna make it? Am I gonna make it? Do I, I've invested 6 months of my life into this, and I'm barely selling a thing or two. Do I leave? Do I double down? Do I put more resources? So these thoughts, I think, come to mind all the time, and I'm on my seventh venture today, and these thoughts still come my way. I mean, now with the experience and learning how to learn and the resources, it's a bit different. You make, I think, a more informed decision. But early on, if this is for your listeners, if this is their first gig, if this is the first time you've started a business and you're struggling, don't quit too soon. That's at one point, if you keep hitting your head against the wall, the wall's not going to move. So you got to do something different. But a lot of people, I think, quit too early. So take the time, make sure you're doing all the right steps, and ask people, research, speak with people who have been to where you want to go, and then make a better decision. But just don't quit too soon. That would be sort of my first general recommendation to entrepreneurs.
And I agree with you. When I first started my business, it was about that same time, 2000, 2001. And I went to school and I got a computer science degree that nobody cared about but me, but I had to pay for it. So I cared a lot. And then I had no business. I did not want to get a job. You don't want me in your office. I play with scissors. You know, I run with scissors. I don't play well with others. And honestly, if you want coffee, you can get it your own damn self. I'm not going to do it. So
I'm glad you told me, Denise. This way, I'll be careful when I see you in person.
yeah, no coffee. But the thing is, I was so like you, I was so determined that I was going to do what I needed to do for me that I refused. And this is, I'm not advising anybody to do this, but I refused to put out resume because I didn't want a job. I wanted to become literally unemployable, which thank goodness I managed. But like you, I gave myself 6 months, or I don't know, I gave myself 6 months. And I promise you, 2 days before that 6 months was going to expire, I got my first web development job.
Wow.
And then they kept coming, and I built my business, and it's grown and it's done different things over time. But I just knew that I could do it, and nobody was going to get in my way, not even me.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I think so. You got a degree in computer science. You were selling web development. That was the dawn of the internet. Everybody, right?
Mhm.
There was a market, but also I remember in our case, the small business owners, when you were trying to sell them online marketing and how to rank on Google to get leads, like people said, "What? Like, I'm not
Right.
gonna pay for this." That was new. So I think the challenge, I think, for an entrepreneurship is, I'm assuming if you're starting a business, you have some domain knowledge in something. It could be accounting, it could be finance, it could be coaching, it could be HR consulting, what have you. So you have the domain knowledge, you have a few years of experience, or maybe 10, 20 years of experience. So that's one thing. What most people struggle with it, you have 60, 70% of founders, depending on what survey you look at, they come into entrepreneurship without any sales background. So you might be the top consultant, the top service provider, but you still have to sell. You still have to get the leads. You still have to convert those leads into contracts, right? So that's, I think, people sometimes aren't, I speak with maybe on the average 1 to 2 founders every week, and a lot of them, they could be a master in their own domain, But when it comes to the other part of the business, whether it's we've hired someone and oh my goodness, I'm not sure how to manage them. We're having all sort of issues, or I want to hire and I'm not sure how to hire. And then
Right.
I also need to do my accounting and I don't know how to use QuickBooks. So just for those of you who maybe are the listeners who are about to get into business, or maybe they started and they're struggling, know that you have to learn these other aspects of the business, especially sales, but you don't have to master all of them. I mean, sales, you have to get sales to get revenue, but like HR, accounting, you can get help over time. You have to know a little bit about those areas so you can hire the right person or get the right contractor. But I think your domain knowledge and sales are essential. And once you get those few projects, the first, the second, the third project, it gets easier, and hopefully you can then double down and get bigger clients, bigger more revenue, and then better profits.
And I'm so glad you're mentioning sales because listen, I remember when I was pretty young, I was, maybe my early 20s, I think, and I was in, I think, a feed store. Oh, I know I was in that feed store. I talk with my hands. And I had been at a livestock auction. I bought two little pigs. I didn't know what to do with them, so I ran straight to the feed store. And I'm asking anybody who will listen to me, do you want two little pigs? I don't know. Now I don't talk with my hands. I sit on them a lot. But I was, I just about had this one guy convinced he was going to go pick up those little pigs and take them home. And I didn't want to know if they were going to become bacon. I didn't need to know. I just needed them to have a home. And this tiny little man in overalls, it was a farming community, and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, honey, I want you to know that you are the best natural salesperson I've ever met. Feras, I wanted to
Ah.
slug him. I was so offended. I really was. But I was young and I was arrogant, and I thought sales was, you were going to sell me a bad car that was never going to run again. And I remember just being horrified by that. But over time, I realized that if I didn't master sales and communicating, I was going to have to get a job.
Yeah, yeah. I think I have a video. It's called "Sales is not a dirty word." You're absolutely right. I think especially the more technical people are, the more I think when people who worked in a company and they were technical, whatever that technical area is, they probably avoided the sales department like the plague. And they're thinking sales and marketing, this is like the dark side. We're staying away from it. Like we're pure, right? But
Yes,
sales,
I had that attitude. I really, until I was broke, I got over.
exactly. I mean, it is really sales is about, and who said that? I forgot the name now, but it's about you solve a problem. You were building websites, you were doing web development. People needed help with that. People needed to be present on the internet. So if you are a communications coach, if you are an HR consultant, you are solving problems. So think about it that way. Is I'm helping. It's a two-way thing. It's not me. I'm not a used car salesperson. I think this is, according to some stats, it's like no one believes 6% of the population trust a used car salesperson, unfortunately. But you are offering value to the other person, and the other person should value, and they would compensate you for what you're offering. So whether you like it or not, as a founder, you got to know your stuff, whatever you're selling, but you have to learn sales. You cannot outsource sales, especially early on. Later, you can focus on maybe project management or delivery or the back office, but initially, no one is going to be selling for you. You are the founder, and you have to be the salesperson. And the good thing is, you don't have to be knocking on doors, although I would recommend you do that.
I
Just to get
did.
over that,
Hated
get
it.
over that fear. But you can build a website. We were talking about websites. You can develop great content that people would find relevant, and you can post on social media. I mean, you don't have to do a gazillion thing, but you can just focus on writing, and there's a pull and there's a push, so you can get leads your way through other means. This time, like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we literally had to knock on doors. I mean, depending on the services that you're offering, there are a lot of ways to also get like warm leads, get people to knock on your door and ask you more questions, and you can educate them about what you offer and the value, and then those could turn into clients.
Exactly. I'm having flashbacks and not good ones because I'm an introvert. I don't really like to be around people if I can avoid it. I'm only good with people for about 59 and 3/4 minutes, and then I gotta go. But and I live in the oil field country in Southwest Louisiana, so I hit Highway 90 and I knocked on doors, and it was interesting. It really was. But what I did, I knew I had to build up a resume, so to speak. I need to build up something people could see. So I quite literally gave away websites, and they were beautiful. They really were. And then all of a sudden, somebody from one company would say, Denise, when you were here and you built our website, I got a pal. He's down the street. Go see him. Okay. It works. It really does work. But my point for telling you all this is sales is honestly, if you will stop and think about sales as communication,
Yep.
it doesn't smell so bad to you.
Yeah, yeah,
Communicating.
and I think there's so it's just a lot of areas in business. There's part science, part art. So in sales, I mean, no one, well, I shouldn't say no one. Some of us might be born great salesmen, or saleswomen, but for the rest of us, you can learn this stuff. I mean, when we started that first business, my partner was more on the delivery side, the back office, and I was the one supposed to be out there getting us business. And I had zero sales background. Now, I did work in corporate, and I was exposed to big company sales and marketing, but I wasn't in sales. So I had to learn it. I had to hit the books. I had to hit the CDs at the time. I remember listening to, this is vivid in my memory, this CD case with this guy. His name is Tom Hopkins. And the series was called The Art of Mastering Real Estate Sales. And now you're telling me why is it real estate? Well, my partner had that set of CDs, and we were so too,
It was
cheap to
free.
buy too cheap to
Didn't have
buy
to
another
buy anything.
CD. It was expensive, $200.
Yeah.
So I figured I would read out the real estate specific tips, but I kid you not. And you mentioned about taking notes earlier. I was listening the same thing 5 times and documenting and practicing, like, here's how you handle this type of rejection. Like, I made it so mechanical that I maybe that was my left side, my left brain. And then I wrote it down and I memorized this. And my little girl, I remember one day she walked into the room and said, Dad, why are you listening to this boring stuff 5 times? But that's how I had to memorize it. And then it came out awful the first few times. And over time, it becomes second nature, and you learn it, and then you tweak it. And then that's when the art part, you do the reps, you do the repetitions, and you go out and pitch, and maybe you make a fool out of yourself for the first few times. But then after that, it just becomes part of you. You'll be a walking billboard in a good way. And you'd be able to pitch in any setting without even sounding like you're pitching. It just takes a bit of learning and some practice.
Feras, did you do what my friend Bangay the 30s, the author of The Closers Part 1 and Part 2, and he's sold millions of, I call them the sales Bibles. He's my co-host on Wednesdays.
Yep.
He scripts everything. And I didn't realize until I started chatting with him that when I went out and I was hitting Highway 90 and crying the whole way, I wasn't crying, but boy, I ate a lot of Tums, let's just say that.
Yep.
And I realized after the first one or two where I was just so miserable and so embarrassed and stuttering. And normally I'm pretty self-confident to the point of being kind of obnoxious, I think. But honestly, I realized that I could see it in their eyes. They weren't interested. Oh, there it is. So I would write a script because I was paying attention. I was listening. What is it they really want to know about? What's in it for them, which was my first mistake. I was trying to get something for me, like groceries. And, once I realized that I had to pay attention to what's in it for them and watch, the micro expressions, and they're like, these are oil field guys. I'd hear, oh, hell no. It's like, oh, come on. But once I figured out that I needed to script my delivery, I could get in and out in 15 or 20 minutes with a contract.
Absolutely. I mean, it's analogies. So when all of us, when we first learned, when we first got on the bike, that little bike with the training,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? When we got in the water the first time, if we can remember, when I'm into martial arts, Aikido, when the first time I got on the mat, or when we have beginning students join our dojo, our school, like you don't know how to walk, you don't know how to move your hands, you're clumsy. That's just same thing. Like with the first time we learned how to drive. Like I remember vividly, again, I'm sort of so stiff holding on the steering wheel. No one talks to me. I can't even turn the radio on. I'm so stiff and focused in front of me. I'm not looking around. But just give it a few months, and then it just becomes second nature, right? So
Exactly.
sales is, there's a sales muscle in you. You just have to grow it. You just have to do the reps. You have to learn, as Denise said, you got to write down the script. But I think the art part of it is, and that's, a lot of us, we see stuff on YouTube. Oh my, these folks she's amazing at selling. Look at her. She's natural. Well, she or he or whoever is now very good at sales, they must have done the 5,000 hours or the 10,000 hours. And now they can sort of pick it up on the fly. And then you can sort of, if the client is zigging, you zig when they're zagging, and you'll be able to on the fly read what they're telling you, their concerns, their pain points, their aspirations, and on the fly be able to respond and address their concerns.
And listening is critical.
Yep.
If you're in there and you just you lost them after
Well, I'll
the
tell you. I'll tell you
you
a
lost
funny.
them in 2 minutes.
I'll tell you a very funny story. Well, I think it's funny. It was very painful at the time. So I took a bunch of courses, 20 years ago or so. YouTube wasn't a thing at the time. So I registered for a 3-day sales course, and I went, and the guy was amazing, Marvin, and I took notes. And then he said, before, because I was at that point, this is like a little bit later, I was able to get leads. I was pitching, but we were not closing leads at the rate I thought we should be. So he said, to improve your win rate, just you have to better qualify the lead and just learn more about the lead. And then this way you can customize the proposal to their needs. So he said, here are about 30 questions you can ask, 30. So I, again, printed that list, good student, memorized it. And then I had an appointment with the VP at a company here right after lunch at 1 p.m. So I go in there, and the guy probably had a pretty heavy lunch. And we sat down, and me, the good student, I pulled that list of 30 questions, and I started, Denise, I kid you not, I started asking one question at a time, blindly, without even paying attention to the guy in front of me. And later, like one third down the list, I look and I put the guy to sleep. Because dozing
Oh
off on me.
no.
So
Did
so
you
I mean,
immediately
I left.
go,
Obviously, we did not win that deal. So my win rate suffered. But then, like, I was like, oh my, banging my head, like, what did I do? And then I spoke with the sales coach. She said, Feras, I said, these are 30 questions. Don't ask them all in one setting. And you don't need to ask all of them. So you learn. I mean, it's funny now. It felt awful, but that's how I learned. So
I think 3 questions is sufficient, but they need to be good. With
yeah, and
three,
then you just sometimes you can ask them in like maybe 2-3 meetings. You can email some of
right,
them. You can
right.
research their website, and so that's okay.
I love that story.
I put a lead to sleep. That is a true and honest story.
But we do these things when we don't know what we're doing. And my big thing is if we're not paying attention to the person across the desk from us or the person on the phone,
Yeah,
you can tell when you lost them. You really can if you're paying attention.
you gotta, like, listening, like you said, you gotta listen. You gotta,
Yeah.
and again, it comes with practice. So for the young entrepreneurs, the new entrepreneurs, older entrepreneurs who are pivoting, maybe they want to go after their second mountain now. You just got to learn some new skills that you don't have. I mean, it does building and scaling a business, all that requires us to learn things that we haven't done before. Like in my case, after all these different ventures, and now I'm into the content space and the consulting space, trying to figure out how to crack the YouTube nut. It's hard. It's really hard. And myself and our team here, we keep learning. We are learning from creators, from those who are maybe 20, 25 years younger than us. We are reading books on the subject. We are taking notes. We are trying to improve every video we do by 1%. I mean, I think especially as we get older, like I think that's good for the mind, good for the soul, like that sort of keep on reinventing yourself so you stay sharp. You know, learning and applying that learning is really, at least for me, it's something that keeps me going. Like there's something new, some new challenge that I gotta figure out how to overcome.
And Feras, have you found that, I mean, we have to upskill as well. We just do. Yeah, I have a great team on my business website, for websites and, marketing and things like that. But I've got a terrific team. But I had to learn the hard way that I was my own bottleneck because I never ask them anything that I can't actually do myself. But here's the thing, they're doing one thing and they are excellent at it.
Yeah.
I'm scattered all over the place and I probably haven't upskilled myself in a while. So you have to go back and look at your skills and figure out, do I want to go back and, kind of relearn this, or do I want to hire this out? It'll save you a lot of angst and time.
Absolutely. You know, we have in our startup here, startup with Feras, we have these what we call the black belt principles, and one of them is learn, do, then seek. So whatever area of the business, as a business owner, as a founder, learn a little bit about it, do a little bit of it, and then seek advice, get a contractor or a part-timer or a full-timer. So for example, accounting. I mean, even if you're good with numbers, um, there's invoicing, there's revenue recognition, there's obviously the right categorization. How do you input things in QuickBooks? So my recommendation to founders is learn about accounting, learn about P&L, profit and loss, understand what attributes to revenue and to expenses and where the money is spent, where the money is coming from, what's more profitable. But the mechanics of sending invoices, of following up on collection, on how to do a general ledger, like you don't need to know this stuff. Like you got to focus on learning your craft, learning your maintaining mastery of your area of expertise, and then selling, especially early on, and then get someone else to help you in an area that you shouldn't be spending time on, whether it's, again, accounting, IT, or even like lead generation. If you're really struggling with cold calling, you can get a lead generation company. They can get you leads, but there's no escape. You got to learn sales, as we said. But there's certain things, to your point, Denise, you should hire, get some help. My recommendation is just learn a little bit more about that subject, do a little bit of it. This way you can discern a good candidate from a bad candidate. You can
Exactly.
discern
Yeah.
what is it that you need. And that's, you can't just blindly outsource. I think that's also like a formula for disaster.
And it happens more than you would think. Years ago, the VA industry was huge and it still is, but I was, in the forefront of that and I was well paid for it. Then everybody and their grandmother who had a keyboard was an expert VA. So I said, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. They did a lot of damage. They really did. And the big complaint was exactly what you're just referencing. People say, oh, I need a VA. Okay, what are you going to ask them? Just to do everything for me. Oh, geez. And then they would be mad. The VA would be in trouble. It was just a cluster bomb. It was just awful. And it happens to this day because they're not taking the time to be aware enough or educated enough to say, this is what I need. What can you do with me or for me? And if you don't have that in front of you, you're going to go through an awful lot of people. It's going to be expensive and it could damage your brand badly.
Big time. And this is, I mean, so learning, doing, then seeking help is
I love
important.
that. I just wrote that down. Learning, doing, then seek help.
So yeah, learn, do, then seek. So
Right.
so so it's important for scaling a business. So we were fortunate, we were able to scale different businesses to 7 figures, and one business to 8 figures, and sold that business to a global company. And I can tell you, in terms of scaling, so there are challenges when you start a business, and then let's say you get over that first hump and you get to $500,000 in sales, and then you get maybe to 7 figures. But at these inflection points, you have to, as a founder, or maybe if there are multiple founders, as co-founders, you really have to step back and look at the business, sort of work on the business, and find where it is that you are a bottleneck. Because we, as founders, we're hands-on, we love to do things, we love to figure things out on our own, which is great. We want to maintain that curiosity, but you cannot scale if you're still doing today what you were doing 12 months ago or 6 months ago. There's just so many, there's only so much time in the day, right? So anything that is now repeatable, a little bit maybe mundane, or now you figured out a process to do whatever it is in the business. If you want to scale, if you're serious about scaling, then you have to find a way to delegate this to someone else. Find the right person, train them, set up some guidelines for them, and then hand it off to them. Don't be obsessive. You have to really delegate and get others to help you. So this way you can focus on bigger things and better things, and focus on the business and growing the business. So learn and do, get help. And you have to, if you look at what you're doing today and compare to 6 months ago, if you're still doing the same thing, you are not going to be able to really scale the business. It just doesn't happen.
Doesn't. And you know what I found during my journey, and I find it again and again sometimes, is that when I'm doing something that's, I should have turned it over to my team, but it only took me 5 minutes. We all have that conversation. Oh, it didn't take me that long. I'll just take care of it myself. That's procrastination. Nothing more or less than procrastination. So get it out of your way.
Yeah. And we have, I mean, again, as founders, we have to do things because it's like, how would you say, there's me, Feras, and I, and three of us, right? So, but you can, these days, I think people say, like, how is it different than 20 years ago? Like 20 years ago, I don't think we had as many resources, access to resources.
Oh, we didn't.
Now, I
If
think there's
we
so
wanted
many.
to, sorry, if we wanted to build something, let's just say we needed a newsletter and we needed our website, we had to cobble everything together. And it
Absolutely.
didn't always work.
Right. And even like from a human resources perspective, today you can go on Clutch, you can go on Upwork, you can go on Fiverr. There's so many, you can get resources here or overseas, qualified people who can come and help you hourly, part-time. Like if you you got to build a website and you got to have a newsletter, but let's say you're just writing is not your thing. You can come up with the idea and maybe the problem you solve for a client, and then you can hire someone for a few hours a week, and they can articulate that story, and then you can put it in your newsletter. So I think today you have access to resources. So founders have a lot of resources. And I feel bad for founders today, especially the younger ones. Like, I think with that access to resources, there's also, it could be overwhelming because there's so many resources. And also it's just, there's so many distractions. So I guess never easy to start a business. Each generation, I guess, each time has its own challenges. But the idea is look for ways to get help from resources that, document what you need, put a job description, no matter how small it is. Those 5 minutes a day you mentioned, Denise, they add up to 2-3 hours a week. So if you can outsource that to someone, and then imagine you take those 3 hours and put them in sales, that would be your next deal. So you increase your revenue, right? Now you have more profit. Then you can hire another person and you can scale. So it does add up.
It really does. And I would catch myself saying, why did you do that? Well, it was only 5 minutes. No, you took time away from something that was pretty critical,
Yeah.
and you managed to lose your focus because it was only 5 minutes. So it took 20 to 30 minutes to get that focus back. You are wasting your time. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's hard. And I mean, I'm not very disciplined on like, a lot of people say you have to have that deep thinking or that just just unplug from everything. I do like when I'm writing and we're in the content business, so I write a lot. I I have the multi-tab disease like a lot of us, but I close the email tab, like the email, because and I don't have any notifications turned on any of my
No, I
devices.
don't either.
But I always go check email. So Slack, we use Slack within the company. So I close the Slack window. I close the Gmail tab, and my phone is on off, and then spend an hour just writing, get what I want on paper or on in Google, in a Google Doc, and then move on to a lot of the administrative stuff. So you have, I think, as a business owner, uh, you just have to find whatever model you use, whatever system you use. You got to find some time to unplug from a lot of the distractions and think about the business. Like you want to work on the business a few hours a week, not just being working 50, 60 hours in the business. And that's really important.
It is. I batch things. I know when I need to be writing, I'm writing. And I also know that when my eyes are crossing, it's time to get up and move. But I
Yeah.
batch things and I keep my house so quiet because I am focused, I am concentrating. And I will catch myself because I'm at that point in my concentration where I'm just wandering. Nothing is working. I'm looking at the same piece of code over and over again. And I'll realize that I can hear water running in a hose outside. It's that quiet.
Wow.
And it's time to get up and move and go
Yeah.
turn
No,
the water off
which
quickly.
which brings up the idea of you work hard. I mean, I work hard. I work really hard, and that's been a theme. But even with that, you got to find time to nurture relationships. You have to
Oh,
find
yeah.
time to take care of yourself. Take care of yourself intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, whatever path you follow. But it's really important. So when when I say I work hard, so in that very first startup, um, I slept there a few times because the developers, I was a director at the time or a VP, I forgot, and then we had a demo the next day for a bunch of investors and potential customers, and the developers were coding, and I just couldn't find it in me to leave, and they're staying there, and they a bunch of us stayed there overnight. So did that a few times, and then but even there are times where you just have to unplug and rest, unplug and clear your mind, unplug. And if you have a spouse, a friend, a partner, family, you gotta have, you gotta nurture these relationships. So it's hard to have that like work life balance. I think it's really hard. Maybe it's a something not very achievable, but it's, I think, managing the imbalance is what we need to master. So at times you work 70, 80 hours a week. At times, if you have an aging parent, you got to take care of your parent. If you have a sick child, you got to take care of that sick child. If your spouse is working and you can work from home and take care of that child, so you got to make those sacrifices. This because life is, again, I work really hard. Like even now, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, I can do that. But if there's something important to me in life, in my bigger sphere, again, a spouse, a child, a friend, a family member who needs help, I'm going to take care of that, and work can wait. So it's a tough balance. It's a really tough balance, but I think leisure time is where we need to cut down on. A vacation, instead of maybe a 2 week vacation, maybe a 3 day vacation. Instead of watching the entire series on Netflix, maybe do once a week. So I think sacrifices are important, and maintaining a healthy balance of maintaining healthy lifestyle and taking care of the relationships are really important. That will help you succeed in business. Because if you don't have those, if you don't have a if you don't have a solid base, it's really hard to build something big.
It is. And what we're really talking about, I'm speaking to the audience now, what we're largely covering here is that entrepreneurship truly is 5 times harder than most people imagine. It might be 10 times harder,
Yep.
depending on how you operate. But I have to tell you, I don't consider anything that I'm doing a hardship. My little monkey brain just goes, well, that didn't work. Okay, I'm going to go try this. We all fail, we all fall down, but we jump right back up and go, huh, all right, let's do something different.
I mean, talking about sales, so we talked about the early days and a lot of the rejections, and it couldn't sell. But even later, when we were expanding and we started to pitch Fortune 500, so at one point in our journey, we pivoted, and life is all about pivots. Some pivots are in business and in life. Some pivots, you plan for. Some are unplanned, and sometimes you're forced to pivot. And I remember one time we were starting to get leads from bigger companies, and we had this one leader from a Fortune 500, really, really amazing brand. And I was as nervous pitching to that brand, and even like the first call and the second call, as I was nervous pitching the very first client of ours, a small Greek restaurant here in Santa Clara called Athena Girl, still thriving. So when you go into a new vertical, you go a new maybe a new tier of clients, or maybe a new market, new geography. When I know we started a business in Dubai in 2012, 2013. And when I traveled there and I hadn't done any business overseas, figure out the culture, how to sell in that environment. It like new things to us. So it is hard, not just early on, but even as you scale and as you pivot and as you do new things, you enter new markets. You just have to. It's hard. It doesn't get easier. I think your confidence level might be higher because you have a bit more competence now. But just nothing worthwhile in life is easy. You gotta work hard for things.
And if it gets too easy, this is kind of a question, partly an observation, but if it gets too easy and you're no longer a bit nervous about it, does that mean you're burnt out?
You burnt out, you don't care,
Yeah.
or you've done it. It's second nature to you now, and I feel if you're enjoying this part of it, that's great. But if it's very easy, but it's not something you should be doing as a business owner, as a CEO. um, I mean, it's again, this is where you find someone who can. That could be whatever is easy for you could be someone else's challenge, right? So this is goes back to scaling. I think if like when we were getting into these new tiers of clients, um, I looked around in my network and I spoke with a VP of sales from a previous startup, John, who was he was he's accomplished, and everything is taken care of now, but he still had a few years in him. So he said, hey, Feras, I still have a few years in me. I love this sales thing. I've sold to Fortune 500. So we brought him in on a part-time basis initially because I wasn't sure, and I don't know if I could afford him. And he helped us scale that business significantly because he that's what he's done. He's sold to Fortune 500, and I didn't have that kind of experience. So while I had done really well selling to small and mid-sized clients, getting into Fortune 500 was something new and challenging and sort of scary. Like talking to Sony or talking to some big names, like, oh my God, or the US government, like, how do I sell to these people? And John came in and he was smooth and he was genuine and he was great. And he helped us get into these bigger deals and bigger accounts. So yeah, so that's if selling to small business was really easy, then the next challenge was to sell into big customers, right? At least that's in my experience. And then we got some help, and then we ended up doing really well there as well.
And I'm glad you shared that because my next question was going to be, what are some of the biggest opportunities and challenges facing your industry in particular, and how do you see them evolving in the future? Because as you mentioned, we have to pivot and things change on a dime.
Yeah. So you mentioned the company e-CENS, which is the digital analytics and digital transformation consulting business. So I'm more of a board member there. I'm a co-founder, and my co-founder, he runs that business. I'm more sort of an advisor there in my capacity. So there are a lot of challenges because digital marketing is changing. It was easier in the past. There were fewer marketing channels. Now there are social media, a bunch of platforms, obviously, your website, your mobile app, your social presence. But I and then like what do you do? Like which channel do I use? And then within digital marketing, within analytics as an industry, there's just like major shifts in, around privacy and how do you, like, if you're a business owner and you have a sizable budget, how do you properly target, user dollars effectively? So there's challenges there. And then on the other venture where I'm spending most of my time, which is the Startup with Feras venture and the education and advisory business, I think one of the challenges is there's a lot of content out there. There are a lot of people on YouTube. There are a lot of people on social media. Some great content. They speak from experience, but there are a lot of, I don't know, hucksters, people who claim,
Yes, there are.
they've done it. I don't know what a polite word to describe them, but I mean, I feel
Con
bad
artists.
for
They're
sometimes. There's just,
conning.
yeah, there's just like, hey, how to make $10,000 a month. Like you can't make $10,000 a month like right away. It just doesn't work. How to be a millionaire in 3 months. Like it doesn't work that way. And you see there's a lot of following, there's a lot of views on these videos. So how do you stand out as someone with experience and you've done it, and you have the background, uh, and you're telling an honest, practical, pragmatic advice. How do you make that stand out with that ocean of some of it misinformation, some of it, people who don't know what they're talking about. Maybe they look good on camera, or maybe they can spin things differently. I'm not saying all the content out there is bad. I'm just saying there's
No.
there's just a lot of, like, just put the word millionaire on YouTube and see what you get. It's fascinating to me that there's so much content that way, and more fascinating and sad that a lot of people believe in this stuff. So that's
Yeah,
the
critical
challenge.
thinking
Yeah.
is a problem these days.
Sorry.
Critical thinking seems to be
Yeah.
a problem.
You got to be able to discern. You got to
Yeah.
learn, research. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk. We've got about, 5 or 6 more minutes. So let's talk about Startup with Ferris. I know you're very passionate with that.
So it is the advisory and media company that we started about a year and a half ago. My co-founder Eric, he left corporate to join me in this, and I was part-time last year. Now I'm full-time in it. Basically, we did a lot of research, and we found that this one area of, people who want to start a business and people who started and struggling, we don't think there's a lot of content there that is helpful. So that's what we're focusing on, not how to scale the business. I can advise on how to scale a business, how to sell a business. We've done that, but early stage entrepreneurs, especially who are in the services and consulting business, that's what we're focusing on. So you'll see a lot of content on our YouTube channel at Startup with Feras, and Feras is spelled Feras. You'll see on sales and how to pitch, how to do demos, how to close deals, how to overcome fears. So we have a lot of content there, and I have a weekly live stream every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, where we cover a topic on entrepreneurship, and then we answer the questions that come to us from the community. So if you have, that's free advice, free consulting. So if you have any question, your listeners have, I'm happy to respond there. And then we have a daily newsletter on our website, startupwithferas.com, as well, where we share tips and strategies on how to build and grow and scale a business to 7 and 8 figures.
So let's just say that I haven't been there. I have, but let's just assume that I have not been there. Where do I start? Where would you want people to go and follow along? Because I'm thinking they can't just pop in and go, oh, that makes sense. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't do steps 1 through 88.
Sure. So very good question, and we do have a framework. So we on the website there's a tab called Learning Path. So that's more sort of like a chronological way of thinking of a business, like vetting the idea, writing your business plan, working with lawyers, working with accountants, and then how to market the business, then how to sell services. So we have that on the website. We, believe it or not, depending on when this the podcast, when listeners listen to this, but we don't have, as of the time of record of this live podcast, we don't have any actually paid services. We will be launching that soon, where we will have that framework. Here's how I start, and here's a guide, and here's a tool, and here's a spreadsheet, and here's a template business plan. So we will be launching that in the next few weeks, and then we'll also have more of sort of people who know exactly what they're looking for. So we have a premium consulting offer there as well. But yeah, it is, in terms of, we have our own framework, how you assess the business, how to vet an idea, how to look and find advice from the right people who have been to where you want to go, not just any random person. And that'll be launched in the next few weeks. So yeah.
Stay in touch with me and let me know when these things launch, and I'll make sure our audience knows.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Denise.
Well, is there anything else before I reluctantly let you go? Is there anything else you want? I'm loving this conversation. What else do you want the audience to know about?
Thank you, and I really appreciate your thoughtful input as well. I mean, for folks out there in life and in business, I'll end with what I started with: is life throws a lot of curveballs at us. I think we have this, maybe because of all the marketing that we're exposed to and all the vacation ads we see on TV. I mean, life, yes, we want to be happy. Yes, we want to provide for our families. We want to be successful. But life is not perfect. Life is not going to be perfect. Business is not perfect. Business is not going to be perfect. It's just this how things are meant to be. So I think we have to kind of realize that. And I'll end with a quote from the founder of NVIDIA, the company that's now powering the $2 trillion company, powering all that AI innovation with their hardware, with their chips. He said, he was addressing a crowd at Stanford, and he said, in a happy way, he said, I wish pain, he said, people with high expectations typically have low resilience. So
Really?
he said, so if you have high expectations, you're gonna have low resilience. And he said, I wish on you, in a happy way, pain and suffering, because that builds your character, and character is what will help you manage and overcome difficulty. So I think, yes, we want to make it big, and we want to make a lot of money, and we want to provide for our families and just be successful. Yes, to all of that. At the same time, is not an easy path. So focusing on your hard skills, on your soft skills, in the face of adversity, being out there, have that resilience. So if you fall, you can get back. Mourn for a day or two. That's okay. Men, it's okay. You can cry at night if you don't want anyone to see you crying. But you got to get back on your feet and face the difficulty and overcome it, with hard work and that resilience I mentioned earlier.
And you know what I have found, and thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go have to find that quote. But you know what I found? Anytime I fall flat on my fanny, and I do daily, seriously, entrepreneurs, we fail at something daily, sometimes multiple times a day. It could be small, it could just be irritating, it could be oh crap, what was that? But once we pick ourselves back up, we almost always find a better way to do it. Almost always.
Just remember the bike. Remember the first time you
Yeah,
got on the bike. That's
exactly. Or the first time you drove a
or
car
the skis or the snowboard, or you got on the mat in a martial arts dojo. So yeah, it's all same system, same parallels.
Exactly. It very much is. Listen, thank you so much, Feras, for spending a Saturday morning with me. I really appreciate it. And one more time, tell people where to find you.
Yes, thank you so much, Denise. I appreciate it and enjoyed this conversation. So you can go to Startup with Feras, Feras spelled FERAS.com, or on YouTube at Startup with Feras. So yeah, looking forward to hearing from you and the audience. And again, thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You can be found on LinkedIn too, I believe.
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm on all the LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, but I'm most active on In terms of content we're producing, most active on YouTube and on our website, but I'm on LinkedIn as well, so folks can direct message me as well there.
Great. Well, listen, everybody, as we conclude today's episode, your feedback means an awful lot to me. And if you found the show helpful, please support us with a quick review on iTunes. And your input is vital in my mission to inspire and empower more individuals. So don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a review, and share your Partner in Success Radio with friends and colleagues. And be sure to go find Feras Alhlou on the web and connect with him. Seriously, go to his website and YouTube. It's fascinating stuff. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Feras, again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Oh, you too.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.